interest forum that encourages your voice to be heard on the topics and issues impacting our local communities. For the next 30 minutes, we invite you to be part of the conversation by calling 219-362-0522. And you can now text your questions to the Liquor Vault on-air line or by email to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is a topic-based program, and we ask that you keep your comments brief, concise, and related to the topic being discussed. The views expressed on Sound Off are those of the hosts or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. The Liquor Vault on-air line is now open for your calls or texts at 219-362-0522. This is Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Sound Off, a community conversation show where we have a conversation about what's going on in LaPorte County and beyond. I'm glad to have you with us today. We're going to talk about Indiana redistricting and a bunch of other things. But before we get there and introduce my guest today, we're going to take our first break so we have lots of time to get to questions and have a really deep conversation. So you're listening to Sound Off. Keep it right here on 96.7 The Eagle.
It's been a trying year. We've all had to adapt and adjust, and no one is better at that than farmers. Farmers thrive in times like these because farmers are resilient. Just like the changing seasons, farmers adapt to get the job done. At Bain Welker Equipment, we are here to serve, thank, and celebrate farmers. At Bain Welker, as long as you need parts, sales, service, and precision farming, we're here for you. See us today. Bain Welker, employee-owned, customer-focused.
Be sure to join Jeff Wugazer this Saturday from noon until 2 at the Cutler Funeral Home Open House. Cutler Funeral Home would like to say thank you for letting them be a part of your community for over 125 years. Now, the celebration starts with plenty of food, gift baskets for local merchants, and, of course, Rock 106.5.
Time now to take a look at your pet patrol, and today we have a lost Yorkie. Now, the Yorkie's name is Harry, and Harry was lost in LaPorte. If you happen to see Harry, the lost Yorkie, call 363-6395. Next, we have a female cat named Kimmy. Now, Kimmy is long hair, black, white, with a black special mark on the nose. Now, Kimmy was lost at Bleck Road, 6400 and 450 North, 660 West, it says here. If you happen to see Kimmy, please call 219-221-7681. And finally, we have Cleo, the female cat who's 8 years old and not wearing a collar. Cleo is short hair, black in color, was lost at 1300 block of Wright Avenue here in LaPorte, and has a clipped ear. If you happen to see Cleo, please call 219-561-4098. And that's the latest in our Pet Patrol here on 96.7 The Eagle. So who's hungry? Good, because I've got a deal for you. Hey, it's Dennis Siddell. Make sure you listen for Denny's Diner weekdays at 6:55 right here on the Morning Mayhem. Both Joe and I will be cooking up some country trivia questions, and if you have the correct answer, you'll be the winner of a $20 gift card from either JJ's Side Out Bar and Grill, Wanna Pizza, The Burger Bar and Grill, Nowhere Bar and Grill, and T-Berry's Diner. Make sure to join us for Denny's Diner at 6:55 a.m. during the Morning Mayhem for your chance to win on 96.7 The Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to Sound Off. You can now text or email your questions directly to the studio. Call or text 362-0522 or email your questions to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is Sound Off.
Welcome back. Today's topic is going to be something that we must talk about as it impacts every voter in Indiana. We're going to talk about Indiana's redistricting plans. Just this week, the Indiana House voted in favor of redrawn lines that change which districts you're in and who represents you. For the last year or more, our guest has been working with the Indiana Citizens Redistricting Commission to try and persuade our legislators to move to a more nonpartisan, independent way of drawing the districts. We're going to get an update on how things are going and talk more with former mayor, former head of LaPorte County GOP, and an Indiana Citizens Redistricting Commission member, Leigh Morris. But first, it's time for On This Day in History. It was on this day in 1789 that the Judiciary Act of 1789 was passed by Congress and signed by President George Washington, establishing the Supreme Court of the United States. The original Supreme Court would consist of a Chief Justice and 5 Associate Justices, and each justice would be assigned a judicial district and were required to hold court twice each year in their assigned judicial districts. That requirement of Supreme Court justices was lifted in 1891. Initially, the Supreme Court met at the Royal Exchange Building in New York City and would eventually be housed in the old Senate chamber from 1861 to 1935 when they moved into the current United States Supreme Court building. And as noted earlier, the first Supreme Court was composed of 6 justices. Article 3 of the Constitution sets neither the size of the Supreme Court nor any specific positions on it. In 1807, the court went to 7 members. In 1837, it went to 9 members. And in 1863, it went to 10 members. Now, in 1866, at the behest of Chief Justice Salmon Chase, and in an attempt to limit the power of Andrew Johnson, Congress passed an act providing that the 3 next judges to retire would not be replaced, which would thin the bench to only 7 justices by attrition. Consequently, one seat was removed in 1866 and a second in 1867. In 1869, the Circuit Judges Act returned the number of justices to 9, where it had been ever since. So on this day, we wish a happy birthday to the Supreme Court. The west facade of the Supreme Court building bears the motto, "Equal Justice Under Law." May that be so for everyone in America today and forevermore. My guest today is the former mayor of LaPorte, former head of the LaPorte County GOP, and an Indiana Citizens Redistricting Commission member, Leigh Morris. Welcome to the show, Leigh. Glad to have you.
Great to be here, Nate. Great to be here.
Did you know all of that about the Supreme Court?
I didn't know all of that. I knew some of it, but not nearly all of it.
Yeah,
so I've been educated.
I didn't know there was so much movement amongst members.
Nor did I.
The conversation. It's really interesting. If you can do, any of our listeners can do the fact checking or just kind of research the Supreme Court, how politicized it became when Andrew Jackson was president. Because again, there was this question about whether or not he was going to abuse the Supreme Court. And so there was these kind of politicization of the Supreme Court to make sure that it would limit his powers. But anyway, really interesting stuff. But even more interesting, in my opinion, is what we're talking about today. It's been something, if you follow me on Facebook, you know it's been a passion of mine. I've been talking to whoever will listen. My wife is tired of hearing about it. Redistricting in Indiana. So the census is coming out slowly. The data is out, though, yes. Most of it. And each 10 years, the state legislature decides where the districts are going to be. And that just means who gets to vote where. So, for instance, I live in the 2nd Congressional District in Indiana. My congressperson is Jackie Walorski. Somebody that lives in Michigan City might live in the 1st Congressional District. I live in the 20th Indiana House District, where Jim Pressel is my representative. I live in the 8th Indiana Senate District. But every 10 years, those lines could change, correct?
Exactly.
So what have you been working on?
Well, we've been working on trying to get redistricting done by an independent commission, a nonpartisan commission. You know, when legislators draw the districts, I guess maybe the natural tendency is they draw them to benefit themselves. And that's called gerrymandering. They work the lines so that people who are already in office can stay in office and the party that's in power stays in power. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's representative of the population that they're supposed to be serving. So, for example, in Indiana, we have roughly a 55-45 split between Republicans and Democrats. But Republicans control 70% of the General Assembly, so it's not representative of the people. There are many states that have gone to independent redistricting commissions so that they take the partisan politics out of it and end up with a much more representative group. And, you know, one of the reasons I got interested in this, Nate, was the very low voter turnout in Indiana. Not many people realize it, but in 2014, Indiana had the lowest voter turnout of any state in the nation. We've improved immensely. We're now just 42nd out of 50. But that's
an
ridiculous.
embarrassing stat for all of us.
It's embarrassing. And, well, why is that? Well, one of the reasons is that people don't feel like their vote counts because they don't. The districts have been drawn in such a way that the voters don't decide who's going to represent them. A third of the seats in the General Assembly this last time around were unopposed because people saw no reason to run for the office or no reason to vote for an opponent. That's the sort of thing that really is concerning. And unfortunately, in Indiana, there's been real resistance to doing that. The General Assembly did a summer study group, a very comprehensive study of what should be done to improve the redistricting process. And strong recommendations came back to them that it needs to go to an independent redistricting commission, as 18 other states have done in the nation. That proposal, very well thought out, very well mapped to protect the role of the General Assembly and final approval, and the role of the governor, and obviously approving the process. Came to the General Assembly, was heard in the hearing, and had strong support, overflowing room of people speaking in support. One person spoke against it, but they never were willing to take a vote on that recommendation. And every year since, we've had legislation in the General Assembly to try to improve this redistricting process. Not a single time was the General Assembly willing to take a vote. So that's why we have an independent redistricting commission right now in place to try to convince the legislature that this is not the best way to do it, and that an independent commission can do the job. And I think we've demonstrated by the process we've gone through this year.
So when you talk to legislators and when you talk to officials about independent redistricting, what is the pushback you're getting from it? We've had this conversation on Sound Off, and again, we do have very astute listeners, and most Republicans, Democrats, Independents are in favor of it that are voters. What is the legislative push against it?
The legislative push against it is, well, we don't think you could do it with an independent redistricting commission. You can't make it nonpartisan. That's number one. Number two,
even though other states do.
Other states have done it. Number two, it's our responsibility, and so we can't let anybody else tell us what to do. Well, that's not what an independent commission does. The independent commission draws these maps, establishes criteria, spells it out, makes certain that everything is complied with, and makes the recommendation to the General Assembly, which must make the final approval. I've also heard many, many times that, we're in favor of improving redistricting, but the general population doesn't seem to care. We don't hear much about it, so we're not going to do anything with it. Well, this time around, they've heard a lot from the general public. Our independent commission had hearings in all 9 congressional states. We had about 1,000 people participating. And believe me, the passion was there and concern was there from these people who were testifying in the hearings. So I think we've eliminated, number one, the fact that people aren't interested in redistricting. They are. Number two, I think we've demonstrated in the states that are already using independent redistricting commissions that a nonpartisan commission can do the job. So right now, the main thing I think is just the political process of we've got the power and we don't want to give any of it up.
Which is a sad state of where we're at, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So we're talking with Leigh Morris today about redistricting, gerrymandering. Just this week, the Indiana House did vote on the lines that are going to be the new lines. One of the things that we'll talk about here after our break is if you are in the city of LaPorte, who you vote for Congress, for U.S. Congress, is likely going to change, or at least half of you, it will.
Exactly.
And so these new lines that our House just voted on actually change who is our U.S. House representative. Half of us in LaPorte County are going to have, and not even just in LaPorte County, we've had a difference in LaPorte County for some time, but half of you in the city of LaPorte will have Jackie Walorski in the 2nd District, and half will have Frank Mervyn in the 1st District.
Exactly. Which
is just a nightmare in my opinion, but we're going to get to more of that in a second. If you have a question for us today, or if you'd like to talk about gerrymandering, the Liquor Vault on-air line is 219-362-0522. You're welcome to call or text us. We're going to take a quick break, get caught up on these phone calls, these texts. Give us a call, give us a text, but stay right there on 96.7 The Eagle.
Come into Bell Tire today, and you'll get the lowest tire price, period. Like up to $150 off a set of 4 tires with brand names like Michelin, BF Goodrich, and Goodyear. You'll also get a guy who will give you free lifetime flat repairs, tire rotations, and alignment checks. Get up to $150 off a set of 4 tires, plus more free services, more out of your tires, and more for your money. It's how we make the lowest tire price feel even lower at Bell Tire. See store and belltire.com for details and offer expiration.
Prepare your lawn for winter dormancy with Menard's premium fall lawn food. It's formulated to provide the needed nutrients to help ensure a healthy lawn come springtime. A 17-pound bag covering up to 5,000 square feet is only $9.99 after sale price and 11% rebate. Get 11% off everything now at Menard's. Good through September 25th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menard's.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the pilot speaking. We'll be landing soon at LaPorte Airport. If you look out the right side of the plane, you'll see Pine Lake. Off to the left is the Civic Auditorium. And up ahead, all that traffic you see is headed to LaPorte Chrysler Dodge and Jeep at 1309 Pine Lake Avenue. LaPorte Chrysler Dodge and Jeep, fully stocked with new and late model cars, trucks, minivans, and SUVs. And for more information on the cars on the lot, call 326-6850 or hit your flight attendant call button now.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa Booth at Hero Pet Animal Hospital. We are all about celebrating your pets as the heroes that they truly are. That's why we are supporting the Country Critter of the Week from LaPorte County Animal Shelter. We are excited to announce that we are now open, located at the corner of Highway 421 and Route 2 across from the McDonald's. We are a full-service veterinary hospital open 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. Please call us at 219-515-4376 to schedule an appointment. Or if you need to see a doctor right away, we also offer walk-in services.
Are you in the auction scene but unsure how to dive back in once this COVID thing took over? The auction business has changed. Check out the Lighthouse Estate Management website for secure online auction fun. Click the online auction tab. Large, clear, easy-to-see photos of a wide variety of merchandise, secure bidding, and easy-to-follow instructions on bidding and pickup. Easy to shop and see what you may not be able to live without. Find them on the web, Lighthouse Estate Management, LLC.
No matter what happens this coming school year, North Shore Health Center is here to keep your kids healthy. Now is the time to get them prepared for the upcoming school year with school and sports wellness exams, up-to-date immunizations, and free backpack and supplies while supplies last. North Shore Health Center believes that everyone deserves quality health care. Same-day appointments available. Make your appointment today at northshorehealth.org or call 888-476-1753.
Thank you for tuning in to Sound Off. You can now text or email your questions directly to the studio. Call or text 362-0522 or email your questions to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is Sound Off.
Welcome back, friends. We have Leigh Morris on the show today, and we are getting an update on redistricting in Indiana. We just seen some new maps. We've witnessed where the new districts are going to lie. Explain to our listeners what happened to our congressional districts a little bit here in LaPorte and how it's going to impact them.
Well, in LaPorte County, the city of LaPorte is now going to be divided just about in half. They've moved us from the 2nd Congressional District. All of us have been represented by Representative Jackie Walorski in the past. To split us up now, half of it will be represented by Representative Frank Mervan from the 1st District. So they'll be moving us with the Lake County, Porter County group, and the other half of the city will stay with the 2nd Congressional District. It really dilutes our representation, in my opinion. Because neither of the representatives are necessarily focused on the needs of the city of LaPorte and its people. And so we're the losers, I think, in this process.
As I said on a Facebook post, it now means that we don't just get ignored by one United States congressperson, we get ignored by two.
Exactly.
So we got Leigh Morris on the show today. If you'd like to call the Liquor Vault on air line, 219-362-0522, or text me if you got a question. Let's get to our first caller. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Thanks for listening. What's your question for Leigh Morris?
Not so much a question. Mr. Morris, thanks for coming on the air today. I truly believe that using this as independent is much better than having the two-party system draw this up. And having run for enough offices, people do not understand that if your territory shrinks by population or it increases, that's why the redistricting is so important, because every representative has approximately the same number of people, so everybody's voice counts. And that's why also, over the years, if you are in a new district, it's very, very important that you contact these people and over the years, I've had great representatives and senators that contact you back and everything else. And I've had ones that just blow you off, ignore you. So if you've been ignored, please stay involved. Always remember your vote does count. So I think this change every now and then actually is good. And I just hope that people try and remember to stay involved and keep voting. Thank you, sir.
A good reminder, yeah.
A great reminder. I agree with him right down the line.
It does, though, when districts get so heavily lopsided one way or the other. Let's say the first district, some might say, is overwhelmingly blue.
Yep.
Though Donald Trump did fairly well in the first district, quite frankly, this last year, because he tended to do fairly well with union voters. But when it's heavily swayed, the second district now is +8, probably more now, Republican. What does that do for candidates? What does that do for our democracy?
Well, really, I think the symptom of that is the fact that a third of the seats in the General Assembly didn't have anybody on the Democrat ticket running, because the districts have been drawn in such a way that it's impossible for a Democrat to win. And in that process, you're really disenfranchising a whole segment of the population because they don't have anybody to vote for.
Yeah, and I don't want to out you here, but you are a Republican, saying
I am a Republican, and I like to see Republicans win offices, but I want them to win them fair and square, and I want it to result in fair and equitable representation for the people.
It's better when our elections are fair.
Absolutely.
Let's get to another call. We've got Leigh Morris on the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. What's your thoughts or question for redistricting?
Yeah, hey, good afternoon. And Leigh, thanks for coming on. And I just want to say, great conversation. Absolutely, I think that these things need to be looked at, on a continual basis, judged and viewed where your population is going, and so on and so forth. But another thing I want to shift gears, just kind of, but it still has to do with electing. The thing you said was a lot of people don't think that their vote counts, and I'll challenge this, and this is another conversation. But again, when we start talking about electoral votes, and we talk about the popular vote, and we talk about the electoral, and as we know in the past, some presidents are, do get the popular, and some will say to me, well, why do I even go vote for that? The president is done by electoral votes. Why do they even put it on the ballot if, in fact, my popular vote isn't going to make a bean of difference, so to speak? So, I guess I bring that to the table with it. But again, thanks, Leigh. Always, I don't want to. What do I want to say? I always, appreciated you and feel that you've done really good for the economy. Our political, parties mean absolutely nothing. So keep up the good work, and thanks for addressing this today.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to another caller. Welcome to the show. You're on Sound Off today. What is your question or comment about redistricting and gerrymandering?
Well, first of all, let me say it's good to hear you again, Mr. Morris.
Thank you.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. What I see with what we've got in both the state Senate and House is a power grab, and I don't think that they're going to agree to anything independent. They like having the power. To agree that they even try to take some power away from our governor, and I really like the governor we have. I think he's a very level-headed individual, and I think it's a shame what we're dealing with here. And, I can understand why people don't want to vote. I do vote. I call myself a Democrat, but in reality, I typically split my ticket and vote for people in both parties.
Right,
and
good for you.
So, yeah. And as I've said in the past, I've voted for as many Republican presidential candidates as I did Democrat. But anyhow, I just want to say thank you, sir, for all you're trying to do, and I wish you the best of luck in that endeavor, because it is important, and I would like to see change as well.
Well, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it.
Here's a comment we received online, or a question for you, Leigh. I was at one of the meetings that your organization held. People were interested and, in general, favored an independent commission. That was probably what you gathered as well.
Yes.
But it seems like the state legislators just don't care. They just want to preserve their own power. If the GOP is currently in control of the state, why would they want to let go of any of that control?
Well, I guess that's the issue, unless they don't consider the interests of the voting people and proper and fair and equitable representation to be important. I think it is important, and I think we've got to demonstrate to the General Assembly members who oppose independent redistricting that that's really what should be driving this process, that we should be working towards fair and equitable representation for the people, not control in perpetuity for the party in power.
And is it your belief that if there is these fair and equitable redistricting plans, that it might increase voter turnout as well?
I think without question. I think you would find that rather than having a third of the seats in the General Assembly running unopposed because it's hopeless for any opponent to be elected, you'd end up with a process where there's fair competition in virtually all the elections. That's what we want. And the people need to have a choice. And when there is that competition and where there is a choice to make, I think it's great incentive for the people to do a better job when they're actually elected.
Yeah, it seems like our government is set up for debate. It's set up for working together. It's set up for wins and losses and things like this. And when one party, whether it's Democrat or Republican, is in control of the whole state, you lose that part of the democracy and the republic that we value, correct?
Absolutely. Some people are saying, how can I as a Republican be taking this position? This is not a Republican, a Democrat issue. The Democrats have been as guilty of gerrymandering as Republicans have.
We just haven't had control of the state for a while.
That's right. That's right.
So here's another one question before break. We've got Leigh Morris on the show today. We're talking about gerrymandering in Indiana. We're talking about redistricting plans. 219-362-0522. Call or text me. I'd love to hear from you. Comment online. We just love to have you a part of the conversation today. Here's a comment. So how can this redistricting be nonpartisan? Most people feel one way or another. I hope most think in an independent way to let the best ideas come forth. So how would you respond to this? How can you form a truly independent commission?
Well, there are a variety of different ways. In the case of the current Independent Redistricting Commission, which is purely advisory, it's not statutory, people had the opportunity to apply. There was a panel of judges who were strictly nonpartisan. We had all members of the political party range involved. And then they chose 9 people, 3 that were clearly Republicans, 3 that were clearly Democrats, and 3 that had never been affiliated with either party, never been associated with either party. And frankly, it has been a very nonpartisan commission. As we meet together and work on this process, party identification is not a factor. The focus is on fair and equitable representation.
Because there is a way to say, yes, we have our political ideologies, but we also have values, right?
Exactly.
And you can lean to those values and say, but more than our political ideology is the value for independence in our districts.
Exactly right.
All right. Well, we've got Leigh Morris on the show today. Let's take a really quick break. If you've got a question or a comment for Leigh, or you want to talk about gerrymandering, redistricting, I'd love to hear from you. The Liquor Vault on-air line is 219-362-0522. We're going to take a really quick break. Keep it here on 96.7 The Eagle.
Keep yourself and your neighbors safe and healthy. COVID-19 vaccinations are available daily at your local Meijer. Text COVID to 75049 to schedule your free vaccinations at Meijer and get updates directly to your phone. You can also talk to your Meijer pharmacist or visit clinic.meijer.com for more information. Remember, simply text COVID to 75049 to get started. Get vaccinated today.
Hi, this is Michael Morrison with the New York Blower Company. The New York Blower Company has been in business for more than 132 years, and we are continuing to expand products and services worldwide. We are an industry leader in manufacturing premium quality engineered fans and blowers to the marketplace. If you have welding and production experience, I would like to personally invite you to apply for our available positions. We offer a complete benefits package with competitive wages. Come see what sets us apart from the rest. Visit nyb.com or visit us on Facebook to apply today.
The Milk Kitchen at the Vault is now open and serving lunch Wednesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Located at 810 Lincoln Way across from the courthouse. Chef Eric and his staff are serving up some prepared-to-order, quick-service comfort food that will keep you coming back for more. Stop in today, 810 Lincoln Way in downtown LaPorte. Need to feed a crowd? The Milk Kitchen also offers catering and bulk ordering. Call 243-3331. That's 243-3331, or follow them on Facebook for more details.
Thinking about getting a small storage yard shed, a large riding arena, or maybe something in between? Milmar Buildings in LaPorte is your source for all your storage solutions. Let Milmar Buildings help you design and build your next project. They can guide you through the process every step of the way. Conveniently located 7 miles west from LaPorte on Highway 2. Stop in for your quote today at 7657 State Road 2. Call 785-0145 or visit milmarbuildings.com and get inspired.
If you're not already banking at Grand Heritage Federal Credit Union, you may be wondering what the differences are between us and others, like banks. Come in today and let us show you how you can put more money in your pocket by banking with Grand Heritage, a credit union. Like free checking, Christmas clubs, auto loans as low as 2.74% with terms up to 84 months, Visa credit card with low fixed rate of 9.95% with no annual fees, children's accounts with no fees and no minimum balances, just to name a few of our services. For your convenience, we also have 3,000 plus shared branches, not only in Indiana, but across the United States. And when you call, you get a real person on the line, not some automation. Stop in today. Start benefiting as others have with Grand Heritage, here locally since 1964 at 201 Kumler Drive, LaPorte. Your money is federally insured by NCUA at Grand Heritage Federal Credit Union.
Every 6 minutes, a utility line is damaged by reckless digging. So Indiana relies on 811 superheroes like Steve the plumber.
I contact 811 before I do my work.
Mary the gardener.
Before I plant a tree, I contact 811.
And Mike the landscaper.
I dig for a living, but always contact 811.
Prevent damages or injury. Call 811 or go online. 811now.com.
Sponsored by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, this station, and the Indiana Broadcasters Association.
Hi, everyone. I'm Craig Orndorff. On the next weekend in the country, it's late September 1981. When Raiders of the Lost Ark was in the theater, Nolan Ryan pitched his 5th no-hitter, and Sandra Day O'Connor became the first woman on the Supreme Court. And among the women on the countdown were Janie Fricke, Lacey J. Dalton, Charlie McLean, and Roseanne Cash. We'll have them, and some guys too, on the next weekend in the country.
Brought to you by Haverstock Funeral Home and Cremation Services. Joe Happel at Coldwell Banker First Choice, Mike Nagy at Cross Country Mortgage, and by Burdine Auto Body.
Michiana weather.
With sunny to partly cloudy skies today, we'll head up in the mid-70s. Southwest winds 10 to 15. Turning cloudy tonight with some scattered showers moving in with a low near 51. From the Weather Center at HometownNewsNow.com. I'm meteorologist Paul Frobley. Right now, 72.
We're waiting to hear from you. Dial or text 362-0522 and let us know what you think. That's 362-0522. Back to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Welcome back to Sound Off, friends. Glad to have you with us. Glad to have you listening. Now, hey, next Monday is not a topic show. I don't want to throw you off too much, but if you remember right, Mayor Dermody was supposed to be our guest, and he backed out on us, which we got the better former mayor of LaPorte, Leigh Morris, on the show to talk about an even better topic. But he's going to be here on Monday talking, and we'll give him the business on all that. So, hey, on Monday, make sure you listen to Sound Off. Mayor Dermody will be here. But we're talking about redistricting and gerrymandering. And if you can't tell, I'm excited about this topic because it's such an important and valuable topic to talk about. And we've got Leigh Morris here to talk a little bit more about the work that his commission is doing. Let's get to another caller. If you've got an opinion on this, 219-362-0522. Welcome to the show. Oh, sorry, you're gone. If you were calling or waiting, please do call back. We'll get you on the air. But talk a little bit, Leigh, about this gerrymandering. What... Again, you might not want to, put them on blast or anything, but are you getting, based on our local representatives, are you getting some agreement with this? I did notice that in this most recent House legislation, I did look up our votes, as I try to tell you all of our votes when you listen to the show. Jim Presso did vote for the current map the way it is. Pat Boyd voted against it. But in general, are you getting some agreement from these legislators or understanding where's that at?
I think many of our legislators really favor changes in the redistricting process. But when you look at the political makeup of the supermajority situation we have in Indiana, it's very difficult for an individual legislator to go against the party in power. That's why, in a way, the Independent Redistricting Commission gives the legislature some cover, gives them some opportunity to be more objective because they don't have to take the political process of blame for doing something like this. I think a number of them would vote if they were able to vote in secret, for example. Would vote in favor of.
I think many votes would look different if they could vote in secret. Quite frankly,
I believe so too. So I don't mean to demean any of our legislators at all. It's the process that we've got to change, not necessarily blaming anybody for it. It just has happened, and across the country this year we've seen interest in redistricting and awareness of the problems that gerrymandering creates in ways that I would never thought possible. In Indiana, I think the fact that we've got the population now much better educated about redistricting and a lot more engaged in the process gives us a good leg up for changing this procedure. We might not get it done for this time, but we're going to start right away working on getting that Independent Redistricting Commission in statute for the state of Indiana. And we don't want to lose any of the momentum that's underway right now. It's got to happen.
We've got Leigh Morris on. He's on the Independent Citizens. Sorry, what is the commission called again? Sorry,
Indiana Citizens Redistricting Commission.
Yeah,
we're independent, all right.
Yeah, gerrymandering and redistricting. How bad is gerrymandering in Indiana?
Well, a very objective study done by a professor at George Washington University has reviewed the maps that the legislature is working on right now and says they are more gerrymandered than 95% of the maps in the nation. And he's a national expert on redistricting and gerrymandering. So this is bad.
Do
it's
the
really
current
bad.
maps, the maps that are suggested now that they're voting on now, don't fix the problem.
They do not. Matter of fact, they make it a little bit worse.
So if you're listening to the show, if our listeners, because again, we've had this conversation on Sound Off before, and I'll give credit to our listeners who are on both sides of the political aisle. This is typically a topic, as our first caller said, because people want fair elections. They want free elections. They want independent elections. They want to be able to have two good candidates that they can vote on when they go to the election booth.
At least.
Exactly, at least. But so what can they do to fix this going forward?
Well, going forward, number one, make sure this is an issue that you discuss with people who are candidates for office in the future. If they're not willing to consider improvements in this redistricting process, you ought to think twice about whether that's the kind of representation you want. And number two, stay tuned. Stay informed about what's happening. And as the proposals work through the process for creating an independent redistricting commission in Indiana, make sure that your voice is heard. Several of the legislatures have told me we haven't heard enough from the general public about this being an issue. Well, we got to overcome that. I think we made some progress this year, but we got to do more to get people voicing their opinion so that the legislators know this is not something that can be ignored.
I think some of our listeners might not understand when you do contact your legislator, it gives them some momentum and a little bit of bravery if they know that many of their people are in favor of a certain issue. Right. And again, not to say we've got many friends of Sound Off, many of our elected officials, and I tell people all the time, I genuinely like our elected officials that come in here. I don't always agree with them, but I do genuinely like them. But when you issue your opinions on this, it helps them understand where the general population is.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
A question we received online: how does the independent redistricting maps compare to those the House just passed?
Well, we didn't draw maps that we proposed for adoption. We encouraged Hoosiers across the state, we had scores of them, to submit their best ideas for what the map should look like. And then we selected the winner. The best that we thought overall was the best. We didn't ask the General Assembly to adopt the maps. We said, look for the best processes that are here. Look for the best ideas and incorporate them into your proposals. We believe significantly that winner's map is by far more equitable and fairer than the one the House is adopting. But that wasn't the question. The question was, how can we make it better? And are there good ideas here that you can adopt? We didn't have access to the consultants. We didn't have access to a lot of the data. We didn't have experts that were working on this. These were maps that were drawn by everyday Hoosiers. And they did a great job, as a matter of fact.
And again, going back to one of the questions, so it can be done independently and it can be done, I think, equitably. What are, though, when you draw districts, because population becomes a factor, geography, where counties are located, becomes a factor, also the makeup of a political makeup of a county or an area, if we want as equal as possible. So what is the most important thing when you draw a map?
Well, first of all, you have to comply with the law. Whatever the requirements are.
In theory, yes.
Yeah, you do. And that's population equality and contiguity. They have to meet together. And then you work with compactness. You don't want things that are necessarily drawn out in a long, irregular manner. We think you ought to add to that. Divide cities, towns, and counties into as few of districts as possible. Don't split communities like LaPorte's being split.
Yeah.
Number 3, work for competitive districts. Don't push all the Republicans into one district and concentrate the Democrats in little districts where they won't disturb the control. So make sure you got competition in there. Then look for communities of interest. We heard from a lot of school districts that felt they had absolutely no voice in the legislative process because their district was divided up among 4 or 5 different legislators, and none of them paid any attention to them. And so that's the sort of thing. Communities of interest are important. The Amish community is an example of a community of interest. Certainly cities, towns, school districts are. And those are the factors we think need to come together. But also transparency in the process. Make sure that you've got the right criteria, the right priorities, people know what they are, and the process is done openly and in the public eye, not in the dark of the night. And this process that we've gone through here has been incredibly rushed. If we'd had a month to work with the maps that had been proposed, I think we could have convinced the legislature of some changes that should be made. There was no time for that, no willingness for that. So the transparency was lacking in the process.
All right. Well, we are at the end of our show. I want to thank you so much, Leigh. You look good. You look like you're still just a kid. I know you've passed the 80-point mark, but
several times.
Yeah. Grateful to have you on the show. If people want to stay informed with this, how can they do that?
Oh, gosh, look for All In for Democracy website. That's the website of the consortium that has sponsored the Independent Redistricting Commission. So stay tuned. Lots of information on that.
And next year, again, if you didn't catch this earlier, next year this group is going to try to get a bill passed.
Absolutely.
So that by 2030, though it seems far away, there will be an independent, hopefully an independent redistricting commission, correct?
That's our hope.
All right. And you're still going to be around for that, right?
Well, I plan on it.
Well, good deal. Hey, I want to thank you so much for listening to today's show. Again, a reminder, Monday, Tom Dermody will be on the show. If you'd like to ask a question about what's happening in the city of LaPorte, we'd love to have you. Hey, it's going to be a beautiful weekend. We don't know how many of those we have left in this fall, winter season that we're getting ready to go into. Enjoy it. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. But always, always, always keep listening to 96.7 The Eagle.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you for joining us and voicing your opinion on this edition of Sound Off. The views on Sound Off are those of the host or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. Sound Off airs every Monday and Friday at 12:30. Please mark your calendar and join us again for the next edition of Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle. Your home for country music variety is 96.7 The Eagle, WCOE FM LaPorte.
Michiana weather.
With sunny to partly cloudy skies today, we'll head up in the mid-70s. Southwest winds 10 to 15. Turning cloudy tonight with some scattered showers moving in with a low near 51. From the Weather Center at HometownNewsNow.com. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley. Right now, 72.
Sister cries out from her baby bed. Brother runs in, feathers on his head. Mama's in her room, learning how to sew. Daddy's drinking beer, listening to the radio.